LeBron will not be the problem for the Lakers.
Yeah, and look, they've only been on the court together just 3 times. They're 1-2 with Luka Doncic on the court. So you're wondering, when are we going to be able to see this chemistry form itself in the back half of the season? I love that Woody's here because I want to get a fan's perspective, right? You're going to be the voice of the Lakers fan. Big picture, it hasn't been great since Luka, but LeBron still looks good. What are you feeling as the resident Lakers fan here on the set?
That we're on 2 different timelines. You know, when you make, that was the first thing I thought about when they made the trade for Luka Doncic. It's like, okay, we have the here and now with LeBron, but clearly, as a resident Lakers fan, we always want a star in Los Angeles. We have that in Luka Doncic. I don't even think the Lakers are contenders with how they're currently constructed right now. They're too small. They don't have any type of interior presence, and then I question. Multiple guys are ball-dominant type of guys. How is that going to work out? So I don't think they're in a Western Conference with the OKCs, the Denver Nuggets. I don't see the Lakers coming out of that. I think my biggest thing from this whole, post-trade is, how much can Luka Doncic learn from LeBron as far as how to take care of yourself?
Sure.
I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, we're talking about one of the best players that I've ever seen in Luka Doncic, but he could self-sabotage himself by his...
The bragging rights over USA. Let's talk about our performance of the night now. Big story going into the Lakers game against the Trailblazers. It was all LeBron. There was no Luka Doncic coming off a back-to-back from the night before. Under 8 minutes left in the second. Lakers lead. Find James. Why not? 55-47 going into the second half. All this was, friends, is another example of how LeBron ages backwards. 78-77 after the third quarter. Again, he was hitting from deep last night. So deep, put the hoop to sleep. What do you know what I did there?
I see what you did there.
James, 40 points, 4 assists, 8 rebounds, passes Michael Jordan with multiple 40-point games at the age of 40. And look, the second 40-point game for LeBron since turning 40. That's more than the rest of the NBA. I just mentioned Michael Jordan. That's pretty good company for him. Overall, it's the 79th career 40-point game, tying with Allen Iverson for 6th most in NBA history. Back for some basketball conversation. Yes, Damian Woody's going to hang out for this. Tim McMahon, Tim Bontemps. I want to zoom out before we zoom in, Brian Windhorst. How do you put into perspective what we're seeing night to night from a 40-year-old LeBron James?
Well, there's a lot of people, including LeBron, who just make an assumption at times that his career is near the end. And I'm not.
So we'll talk about the impact of Wemby's injury in a minute, but let's first talk about him through his first couple of games. And Wendy, how would you frame Wemby's first, let's say, 1.5 seasons in the league?
Yeah, it's still disappointing to talk about his second season being over, but that is the case. And this is a guy who came into the league with enormous expectations, arguably the biggest since LeBron. And, the last guy who kind of had this tag was Zion Williamson, that there was a lot of excitement about. And, comparing him to Zion, you look at the massive impact he's made, not only on the Spurs, but on the league. He is putting up defensive metrics that we've almost never seen before for someone his age, and certainly among some of the best defensive centers ever, even though he's only 21 years old. Is a setback, but it hopefully is just that, and that'll be forgotten by the start of next season.
Yeah, I think that meeting the high expectations, I think, is the thing we have to talk about with Victor Wembanyama. This is a 7'5" guy who does things we've never seen anybody do before. He came into the league with highest expectations of anybody since LeBron James. He's met them and probably exceeded them. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about with the ability he has already shown on the court. And you're looking at a guy who, at this point, he's 21 years old. He's scratching the surface of who he can be. And when I was in San Francisco this weekend for the All-Star game, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, I should say, one of the brightest young stars in the league, just ceded the stage in terms of being the face of the league going forward, saying that that's already set up for Victor Wembanyama to be that guy. Like, he's already shown less than 2 years into his career that he's got everything it takes to succeed LeBron James as the guy that this league revolves around, which is why the NBA set up a game in Paris last month that was basically just a Victor Wembanyama show for a week.
Yeah, and Tim McMahon, you live in a great...
Fantastic basketball. We should recognize that as well.
Yeah, he showed it again last night. It's funny he mentioned that, Tim Bontemps, when we look into the future of the Luka trade, but we are all going to focus on the present because it was just done. People think maybe this could be the catalyst to put them on a run. But why is that the wrong way to look at the Luka-LeBron situation right now, which is in the present?
Well, you look at this team, and they've got Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves, all guys who need to have the ball together to be successful, right? And you have 3 guys who need to have the ball that much. There's going to be diminishing returns. That's why we've seen when one of those guys isn't playing, The other two look really good, right? Because ultimately, it's hard to have all of three of them firing on all cylinders all at the same time. And without Anthony Davis on this team, yes, they've been on a great run. Yes, their defense has been good lately. I just don't see this team being able to play at the level defensively with this unbalanced roster to be able to be a real championship caliber team, despite the fact that LeBron still looks like a top 10 or whatever player in the league, and Luka Doncic is great, and Austin Reeves is good. There's just too much of an unbalanced nature to this team.
Yeah, and look, we believe that this trade in the long run, Tim McMahon, is going to work out much better for the Lakers. Luka, 25 years old, still entering the prime of his career, and you've covered his career for the entire time. How well do you think he'll quickly be able to expect to assimilate with LeBron and the Lakers, and really his role with this team, big picture?
Yeah, we saw Luka go through something similar a couple years ago when the Mavericks traded for Kyrie midseason. And really the mistakes that they made, or they deferred too much to each other, also the supporting cast was terrible. They were still a very good offensive team. Look, Luka and LeBron, these are two of the best basketball minds of all time. They will figure things out. One thing LeBron figured out real quick, if he runs, Luka's the best look-ahead passer in the league. You can expect to see a lot of that. How long is this going to take to really start cooking, though? That depends on when Luka Doncic gets back to being at the level that we've been accustomed to seeing from him. This is basically an early preseason stage for him, coming off the fourth calf strain he's had in a 2.5 year span, the longest absence that he's had. It's going to take him a